Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Welcome to season 2 of our Shia book club, where we discuss Shia books that discuss pressing issues that us Shia must know in order to live our lives in accordance with the teachings of Ahlul Bayt and the Quran. Within this season, we will be discussing a new book titled An Overview of the Islamic Theory on Wealth and Poverty by Sayyid Murtala al-Shirazi. This book starts off by discussing how us humans, before taking any path, before pursuing any career, before pursuing any lifestyle, we must ask ourselves one foundational question. And that is this lifestyle, is this path something the Ahlul Bayt and Allah would want from me or no? You see, many of us have limited the involvement the Ahlul Bayt have within our lives to Aza, Latmiyat, Muharram, Ramadan, or other religious events and duties. But a true Shia is the one who incorporates the teachings of Ahlul Bayt in absolutely every aspect of their lives. We must consider their teachings and what they would want from us when it comes to picking a major, picking a career, picking a lifestyle, picking a way to carry yourself. These important life decisions, the author states, must be made not only based on personal whims, desires, and advice of a parent or a friend or what seems right. Rather, these decisions must be made after studying the narrations of Ahlul Bayt and actually asking ourselves, what would they want from me in this day and age? For example, for the past couple of years, we saw a large rise in youth flocking towards computer science majors. Did the Shia youth that did so ask themselves, is this a path that the Ahlul Bayt would want me on or not? These choices are too important to be left to guesswork or what your parents say or what your friends say or what the trends are pushing you towards. These choices must be made with the teachings of Ahlul Bayt in mind. The author suggests that religious institutions, seminaries, and scholars have a duty to examine religious texts, examine the narrations of Ahlul Bayt, the ayat of the Quran. They have a duty to do extensive research regarding the needs of the society, community, and nation people are living in, and based on all of these, guide society and youth towards a specific route within their lives. This is the only way a nation or an ummah can actually develop and improve. For example, a new report from the Pan American Health Organization states that the health workforce in the Americas reveals that 14 out of 39 countries in the Americas lack sufficient doctors, nurses, and midwives to meet the health needs of their populations. Without immediate interventions, the Americas could face a deficit of between 600,000 and 2 million health workers by 2030. If everyone in these nations just continues to make career decisions based on their own whims, their own desires, or a friend's advice, not thinking about what society, the community they live in, Allah and Ahlul Bayt want from them, this problem won't get fixed. It's the role of the leaders, the scholars, the religious institutions to acknowledge the needs of society, acknowledge the needs of the nations that they live in, and see what Allah and Ahlul Bayt want from us. After combining both of these teachings, guide the nation towards a specific career path, a specific lifestyle, and so on and so forth. Another example of the dangers of choosing a life path without asking yourself the necessary questions, without studying the state of the nation and ummah that you're living in, is oversaturation or shortage in some fields of work. Some have stated that there is an oversaturation in computer science fields now. A report done in 2022 found that over 80,000 computer science degrees are awarded annually in the United States, while the growth rate of new job openings in related tech fields remain much slower. People dove into a certain career path, computer science, without any guidance, without asking what society needs, without thinking about what Allah and Ahlul Bayt would want from them in this day and age. They just dove in because that's what the trends were telling them to do, that's what their friends were telling them to do. And now there's an oversaturation in a certain field and many are left without jobs. That's happening while there's possibly other fields that have a shortage of employees and workers. It's the religious seminaries' duty, it's the scholars' duties, it's the leaders' duty to acknowledge the needs of society and based on the teachings of Allah and Ahlul Bayt, guide the masses towards a certain career path that is needed and that would help improve the state and ummah that they live in. Again, this is the only way to make sure that a nation has professionals in every field and issues like oversaturation or a shortage in workers doesn't develop. All this happening while satisfying Allah and Ahlul Bayt. Now, in light of this introduction, we introduce the main topic of this book. After recognizing that every decision must be made in light of the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, every lifestyle decision, the main question answered within this book arises. When it comes to picking a lifestyle, should I as a person, or should we as a Muslim ummah, seek wealth or be content with poverty? Like we said, these lifestyle questions must be answered through the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. I cannot choose to live a life of poverty because it's a vibe or like cool to live like a monk. I can't choose a path of wealth because that's what my whims and desires tells me. No, I have to see what lifestyle, what life path does the Ahlul Bayt encourage, and I must make my life suit that path. We must analyze the narrations and verses to see what Allah actually wants from us in this day and age. Inshallah, by the end of this book, we will have a better understanding of what Allah wants from us. Is it wealth? Is it to seek and pursue wealth? Or is it to stay content and be among the poor? Then we'll also learn what the Muslim Ummah should be pushed to pursue, wealth or poverty. We will also understand how Islam as a religion overall views wealth and poverty. And inshallah, we will get a glimpse of how our scholars understand narrations and how they analyze them and their jurisprudential reasoning behind each understanding, which will inshallah make us appreciate the great scholars we have a bit more. Now, when it comes to religious texts regarding wealth and poverty, we have seemingly contradicting groups of narrations, which may confuse people regarding what lifestyle they should pick, wealth or poverty. We have narrations, which we will call group 1, that praise poverty and condemn wealth. And on the other hand, group 2, we have narrations that praise wealth and condemn poverty. They do the opposite. Let's list some of these narrations so that the picture will become clearer for us, so that we can move on to reconciling the contradiction between these narrations. As for group 1, the narrations that praise poverty and condemn wealth, قال الإمام الصادق عليه السلام كلما ازداد العبد إيمانا ازداد ضيقا في معيشته. This narration, the Imam is blatantly praising poverty. Whenever a servant's faith increases, his provision, his wealth becomes more constricted. Again, this narration is obviously displaying poverty as a virtue. And the more Iman grows, the more a person becomes poor. One can even assume that the opposite is also true. The easier and more comfortable and wealthier a person becomes, that is a sign that their faith is actually weakening. Another narration, لولا إلحاح المؤمنين على الله في طلب الرزق لنقلهم من الحال التي هم فيها إلى حال أضيق منها. Were it not for the believers' insistence with God in seeking provision, He would move them from the state they are in into a more confined state than that. This is a very shocking narration. It's telling us that Allah wants us to live a more confined, restricted life. A life with even more poverty. But because these mu'min servants, because they insist, He gives them a bit more provision. This narration clearly shows a confined state of living is more beloved to Allah. Another narration that praises poverty, من أحبنا أهل البيت فليستعد للفقر جلبابا. Whoever loves us, the Ahl al-Bayt, should ready the jilbab, cloak of poverty. Jilbab is a form of clothing that covers the entire body. It encompasses you entirely. The narration is saying, whoever loves the Ahl al-Bayt, loves the household of the Prophet, whoever is a mu'min, should prepare for poverty to encircle him on all sides. This is again showing poverty as something virtuous. The last narration, Abdullah ibn Sinan narrates that Abu Abdullah al-Sadiq says, أكرم ما يكون العبد عند الله أن يطلب الدرهم فلا يقدر عليه. The servant is most honored before God when he seeks a dirham, a dollar, or any other financial small amount, and is unable to obtain it. You look in your pockets for a dirham, a dollar, and you can't obtain it. In that state of poverty, the narration says that a servant is most honorable before God. These narrations all show poverty as something honorable, virtuous, something that we should seek, something that's a sign of a believer. They all describe poverty as a virtue. The Prophet himself lived in severe poverty, and he had pride in that poverty. The Holy Prophet says, "Al-faqru fakhri wa bihi aftakhiru ala sa'ir al-anbiya." Poverty is my pride, and by it I boast over all the prophets. Going along with the apparent understanding of the word poverty here, it means that the Prophet is prideful and boasts in the poverty, material poverty that he faced. And the material poverty the Prophet faced was not easy. It was a very extreme, crushing form of poverty. The most prominent example showing how severe the poverty that the Prophet faced was that he used to tie a rock onto his stomach. In a narration in Amal al-Saduq, the Prophet is telling the Ansar, "Did I not tie the stone of hunger to my stomach?" They replied, "Yes, O Messenger of God, you were truly patient for Allah." He used to tie a rock onto his stomach to reduce the pain of stomach cramps due to a lack of food. This was the poverty the Prophet faced, and he boasts because of this poverty onto the rest of the prophets. Another narration showing the extreme material poverty that the Prophet faced. Imam Ali alayhi salam says that while they were digging up the trench of Khandaq, Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam brought a piece of bread to the Holy Prophet. The Holy Prophet asked, "What is this bread? Where is it from?" Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam says, "It's bread that I baked for Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein, and I brought a portion of it for you, O Rasulullah." The Prophet said, "This is the first food that has entered your father's mouth in 3 days." Look at the poverty the Prophet chose to endure. This shows us that poverty is something virtuous. And we say chose because had the Prophet wished, he could have been among the wealthiest Arabs. He could have continued doing trade with the wealth of Khadijah and kept the earnings for himself. He could have kept a significant amount of the war booty that he gained. But he chose voluntarily to give all this wealth for the sake of Islam and its establishment. He opted for a life of severe poverty for the sake of Islam and for the sake of Allah. Had poverty not been something virtuous, the Prophet would not have sought it voluntarily. Another narration that praises poverty is a hadith Qudsi where Allah tells Musa, "Ya Musa, إذا رأيت الفقر مقبلا فقل مرحبا بشعار الصالحين." O Moses, when you see poverty approaching, say, "Welcome, O slogan of the righteous." Shi'ar is a garment that is worn under a person's clothes, and it's rarely taken off. It sticks onto the body. This is the relationship between the righteous and poverty. It sticks onto them and it is rarely taken away from them. They are nearly always poor. Whenever you see poverty coming, the narration says, say, "Welcome, O badge, slogan, shi'ar of the righteous." Then the second segment of the narration condemns wealth. And when you see wealth approaching, call it a sin whose punishment has been hastened. This segment is pointing to an important topic that inshallah we will discuss in later episodes. But just to make this narration clear, we have a belief and understanding within Islam that says an increase of wealth, an increase in children, or any other worldly possession is not always a blessing from Allah. Wealth and an increase in any material gain often can develop arrogance, tyranny. It can make you become further from Allah. It can make you forget Allah, forget your deen, forget your religious duties. Sometimes if Allah wants to punish a person, He gives them more wealth, He gives them more children, He gives them more monetary gain. That feeds that tyranny in their heart and furthers them from Allah, which constitutes a heavier punishment from Allah in the hereafter. A person may have lied, saw something haram, did backbiting, or he dealt in usury, or he took a bribe, and Allah's punishment for that sin may be to turn wealth and monetary gain towards him. Allah in the Holy Quran states, فَلَا تُعْجِبْكَ أَمْوَالُهُمْ وَلَا أَوْلَادُهُمْ إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ أَنْ يُعَذِّبَهُمْ بِهَا. The Holy Quran states the wealth and children of the disbelievers should not impress you. Indeed, God wills to punish them with it. This increase of wealth, increase of children, increase in worldly gain is not always a blessing. It could be a punishment. This is a concept called istidraj, which we will inshallah mention in later episodes. This concept mentioned in narrations and within this verse clearly describes wealth as a punishment. Another beautiful report that describes wealth as something evil is there was a wealthy man in luxurious clothes and he came to the Holy Prophet. He folded his garments and he sat right next to Rasulullah. Then a poor person whose clothes were a bit dirty, he came and he sat next to the wealthy man. The wealthy man, it's as if out of instinct, pulled his clothes in from beneath his thigh. He kind of moved away from the poor person. The Holy Prophet asked him, did you fear that some of his poverty would reach you? He said, no, Ya Rasulullah. He said, did you fear that some of your wealth would reach that poor person? He said, no. The Holy Prophet said, did you fear that he would dirty your clothes? He said, no. Then Rasulullah asked, what made you pull your clothes when you saw this poor person? He replied, O Messenger of God, I have a companion, Shaitan, who beautifies every ugly thing for me and makes every good thing seem ugly. And I offer half my wealth to this poor person to make amends. The Messenger of God then asked the poor person, will you accept this wealth? Look at the wisdom behind this poor person's words. He says, أَخَافُ أَنْ يُدْخِلَنِي مَا دَخَلَكَ. He says, I will not accept this wealth. Why? Because I am afraid that what has entered you, that shaitan that accompanies you because of the wealth that you have, I fear that what has entered you will enter me. Look at how this narration describes wealth. It's something treated like a disease and something that someone should be terrified of. All these narrations and the verse we mentioned praise poverty and condemn wealth. Now, one point that I want to mention before moving on to the second group of narrations, which praise wealth and condemn poverty, is that a person who hasn't studied hadith, he hasn't studied under scholars in seminary schools, may look at the first group of narrations and directly base his life off of these narrations. He says, look, the Imam condemns wealth and encourages poverty. Khalas, tomorrow I'm selling all my belongings and I'm going to live in the mountains or start begging on the streets. This is the danger of basing your life on a couple of narrations without reading the views of scholars and without reading the entire corpus of narrations regarding this specific topic. Whenever you read a narration, don't make up a fatwa from yourself right away. No, read other narrations regarding the same topic. Read the views of scholars regarding this topic. You can't base your lifestyle or make up a fatwa based on one narration. Now that we are done with the first group of narrations that praise poverty and condemn wealth, which these are just a couple examples, there are many more narrations that do so. On the other hand, we have group 2, a group of narrations that praise wealth and condemn poverty. Let's list a few of these narrations. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, لا خير في من لا يحب جمع المال. There is no good in one who does not love to gather wealth from what is lawful, halal, by which he can protect his dignity, pay off his debt, and renew his ties of kinship. This narration praises wealth and condemns poverty. If you don't love seeking halal income, there is no good in you, the Imam says. Another narration, ألا وإن من النعم سعة المال. Another narration, indeed, among the blessings is ample wealth. If wealth wasn't a virtue, it wouldn't be described as a blessing within the narrations. Another narration from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, نعم العون على تقوى الله الغنى. The greatest aid in strengthening God consciousness is wealth. You want to reach God consciousness? One of the best aids that helps you reach God consciousness is wealth. We also have narrations that condemn poverty. Again, this group of narration seemingly contradicts the first group of narrations. One of the narrations says poverty is nearly an act of disbelief. Another says, الفقر سواد الوجه في الدارين. Poverty is a cause of shame in this world and in the next. These narrations, in opposition with the first group, describe wealth as a blessing and an aid that helps a person reach God consciousness, while they describe poverty as a cause of shame in this world and the next, and as an act that nears disbelief and kufr. After the author states the two seemingly contradicting groups of narrations regarding wealth and poverty, he begins listing 7 methods to reconciling these two groups of narrations. Inshallah, after studying and reading these methods of reconciliation, we will understand the overall view Islam has on wealth and poverty. With every reconciliation we read, we will slowly develop an understanding of how Islam actually views wealth and poverty. Now, 2 points to remember throughout the reconciliations that we will mention is that these are not the only methods of reconciling these two groups of narrations. Other scholars may have stated other methods of reconciliation. The second point is that not every method of reconciliation we will state works the same way. Some approaches may fully resolve the issue on their own. They fully solve the contradiction between the narrations. Other methods of reconciliation may only solve part of the problem. It may only address certain contradictions between certain narrations. In those cases, a full solve to the contradiction may only come about if you apply multiple reconciliation methods. And inshallah, this will be cleared up later on within the discussion. Join us in episode 2, where we will begin by stating the first reconciliation method provided by the author. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.